Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology and leading literate lives. We talk all things books and reading and notebooks and writing, mixed in with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. You can expect regular weekly episodes focused on 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme and how to bring those themes to life in our actual lives too. You can also expect author interviews, notebooking inspiration, and topics to help us grow through what we go through and take inspired action to make our lives better. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host here with our bonus episode. Every month I share what I've been reading, writing, learning, and loving in a monthly episode, and today is the day for February. And if you're listening on the day that this episode came out, happy leap year day. Yes, 2024 is a leap year, which means we got an extra day of literate love throughout the month. Now, I realized as I was recording this episode that I didn't exactly remember why we even have a leap year in the first place. Why do we do this every 4 years? Add one more day to February. Well, we know that a solar year, right, because we live on Earth, is about 365 days. But I guess a long time ago, some really smart astronomers figured out that it actually takes a teeny tiny bit longer. 365.242 days to be exact. So that means that a year should actually be 365 and 1/4 day long. So in order to make up for that, every 4 years, we add one more day so that it all kind of keeps track and evens out. So if you wondered why we had a leap year, now you know. And if you wondered how I figured it out, I go to my favorite website when I have a curious question. It's not YouTube. It's not Google. It's Wonderopolis. If you don't know Wonderopolis, I highly recommend you go spend some time there and have some fun. It is an educator site that I used often. There is a new wonder of the day where a new question is posed, like this wonder, why do some years leap ahead? Another one that my daughter actually contributed to the idea for, are how do street signs get their names? Right? So there are so many cool things on Wonderopolis, and I happen to drop in to figure out why we have the leap year. So now that you are all caught up on that little history lesson, it's time to talk about some monthly literate love. First up, what have I been reading in February? Now, I can't believe I can actually admit that I have read this many books, but I have read more in February 2024 than I have read in any other month previously. I read 13 books this month. 13 books. I mean, think about that. That's a couple of books a week, which just boggles my mind. Now, full disclosure, some of those books are children's literature, and some of those are picture books. So picture books, middle grade, YA, and adult selections round out my reading life this month. But I read so much more than normal. And I've tried to think about why. Did I get up earlier? Did I go to bed later? Did I sneak time during the day? And the answer is that I've done all of those things. And I've done all of those things because I had a pretty important reason to, which is I needed to keep up with my Kid Lit Love podcast. The beautiful thing about these podcasts is that it holds me accountable for the stuff that I want to do. I want to have a conversation every week with children's literature authors. And to do that, I have to read the book we're talking about, and ideally, additional books in their backlist as well. So I had a pretty robust podcast recording schedule this month, and that meant I had to read more. And it's funny, when it was a must do and I had to get it done, I found the time. Sometimes I woke up early, sometimes I went to bed late, sometimes I read through lunch, sometimes I skipped something else important, but I was pretty impressed with how I was able to put that many books into the shortest month of the year. So I didn't want to tell you all 13 books. If you really would like to know all 13, you can head online to Goodreads and you can find me there. I put reviews to each and every book that I read, but I also put them on my social media handles. So if you head to your favorite platform, you can find me at Affinito Lit. And I always snap a picture of a book that I've read in front of my bookcase, and I include the review. So this month, I thought I would choose 3 of the children's literature selections to talk with you about today. Now, why? Well, tomorrow, again, if you're listening in real time, March 1st kicks off Middle Grade March. It's an entire month dedicated to celebrating middle grade authors, middle grade books, and middle grade readers. And so I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to sneak in a couple of extra book recommendations for middle grade March. So the first book I want to share, oh my goodness, this was an incredibly powerful book. And I was lucky enough to talk with this person as part of the podcast that will be released soon. And this book is called Louder Than Hunger by John Shu. Now, John Shu has written a nonfiction book that I love as an educator called The Power of Story. And he says that books can heal, inspire, clarify, spark compassion, and connect. And his new book, Louder Than Hunger, it did absolutely all of those things for me and more. In it, we meet Jake. Jake is a teenager who was struggling with anorexia and self-worth and is just desperate to make himself smaller in all aspects of his life to cope. It is a verse book, so those lyrical poems on every page just invite readers into Jake's thoughts and into his emotions as he endures the ups and downs of recovery, but eventually finding hope in living again too. It was so hard for me to convey my feelings about this book in a single review because it was so personal. As a mom who's supporting her daughter as she recovers from anorexia as well, this was the book I needed before. This was the book I needed in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. It really showed me what it's like to be inside the head of someone with an eating disorder. It showed me very clearly how my words could help and hinder recovery in ways that I didn't expect. And it also showed me that recovery is possible, even when things feel really, really hard. But I think my favorite part of the book is that John Shu took such care with his readers. On the very first page, there is a letter from Kate DiCamillo inviting readers in, inviting them to think about their story. And then there's a letter at the end from John himself, inviting us to do the same. I felt like the book was a warm hug that I didn't know I needed so much. And I was so grateful to be able to talk to John about this book. Now, this is not a memoir, but it is based on his own experiences and just truly shows the power of books to help others feel seen and feel heard, but also to heal through telling your own story too. This is so powerful. I would say middle grade moving into YA. And I think he took such important care of the reader that I honestly couldn't find things in the story that would be triggering to those with an eating disorder. Well, I guess I should rephrase that. Anything can be triggering, but I felt like this story really took care to frame it in a certain way. And I think it's perfect for everyone, but especially for those readers who love someone going through this challenge and want to know more about what they're going through. So that's Louder Than Hunger by John Shu. Now, up next, oh my goodness, this book was another powerful book. It was not written in verse, but it certainly felt like it. It was such a beautiful book filled with beautiful language, ideas, concepts, all sorts of things that just hooked me as a reader from the get-go and showed me I had no idea I wanted to know as much about mermaids as I did after reading this book. It was touching, it was moving, it was emotional. And I do wish I had this book too, but way back when I was younger. So the story is about Veronica, and she is struggling. She's struggling under the weight of her parents' unrealistic expectations, and she's struggling under the constant reminder of her physical disability. Swimming is the only place that she can escape. She can escape most of her pain there, and she can escape the mental chatter that just doesn't stop in her mind. And since swimming is such a powerful place for her, she dreams of becoming a mermaid at Mermaid Cove, which is a place that she has loved since she has been a young child. And unexpectedly, this one summer, she has her chance. But her parents' very clear disapproval, her own doubts in herself, and the condition of her body threaten to take that dream away from her. I won't say more because I don't want to spoil it, but this was a powerful story of a teenager trying to find her way amidst conservative parents, physical challenges, and just the plain old emotional roller coaster of teenage life. I feel like it's a book about finding yourself no matter what you're dealing with and standing up for the real version of you. The ending of this book had me in tears for reasons that I didn't expect, and I bet you it would do the same for you. And the good news is that Natalia Sylvester, I didn't tell you the author yet, she has other books in her backlist that you would likely love to read as well, including a new picture book coming out pretty soon. Third, I want to share Averill Offline by Amy Parks. Averill Offline is a book that I think needs to be inside every adult book club. Yes, it is a middle grade novel, but it is bringing up topics that are so important to the world today. This is a book for every middle grade reader, all of their parents, and anyone who happens to care for them. Avril is a 12-year-old girl with very over anxious parents who literally track her every move on an app called Ruby Slippers. Now, Avril longs for freedom, but being the good girl she is, she tamps her hopes and wishes down until she can't anymore. When she learns of an update to the Ruby Slippers app that will not only allow her parents to track her every move, but to see and hear them too, she's decided she's had enough. Together with her new friend Max, the new boy in town, they devise a way to sneak away from coding camp to meet the creator of Ruby Slippers and beg him to stop his destruction of their privacy before it's too late. You will fall in love with these characters. You'll cheer for their bravery and their courage to stand up for themselves. And you'll also think long and hard about the role that these kinds of apps play in our own lives too. We may not have Ruby Slippers, but we do have apps like Life 360, and we can all track each other on our cell phones, and maybe even a snap map if you're on Snapchat. I envision kids devouring this book as they relate to this privacy dilemmas the characters face. And like I said, I could easily see adult book clubs and parent groups choosing this book as their next book club read to spark conversation on a very important topic in our world today. Such a powerful, moving, engrossing, hooking middle grade novel, Avril Offline by Amy Parks. So there you have it. There are 3 of the 13 books that I read. If you want to know more, again, head to my social media pages, find me on Goodreads, and you'll see other reviews for books like If We Kiss, Long After We're Gone, Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting, And one of my favorites now, No Two Persons. Such good reading in February. Now let's skip ahead to writing. So February was a very good month for reading. It was not a good month for writing. I just didn't do it very much. The one thing I did, which I am always consistent at doing, is write in my 5-year journal. I still have not missed a day. And I love opening it up every morning, writing my little nugget from the day before, and browsing the years that have passed. So I have stuck to that, but I did not write as much in my morning page journal as I would have liked. Now, when I did, it was important, it was helpful. It just wasn't as much as I would have liked to have done. 2 things jump out as being important, powerful, something I feel proud of in my morning pages. And one I've talked about before, and this idea comes from Beth Kempton. She's the author of Calm Christmas, as well as other beautiful books. And on her Substack one week, she encouraged us to just write down our big, bold dreams and then write down all of the teeny tiny steps it would take to reach them. And then choose one teeny tiny step and do it and see what happens when the momentum builds. I did something big, at least for me, in February, which was launch my restorative reading course. It was called Grow a Restorative Reading Practice, and I was so excited about it. But it did get easy to get bogged down in the sheer amount of things I had to do to bring it to life on Valentine's Day. So Beth Kempton's ideas of keeping those big, wild dreams present, but having that list of little things I could slowly tick away at, that made all the difference in the world. And it may not have been your typical kind of morning page writing, but it was exactly what I needed for my mental health and my ability to be productive around what I wanted to get done. Now, the second prompt I just posted on my Instagram page. It's one of my new favorites, and it's this. Ask yourself, and then write about it. How can I lovingly take on today? This is a prompt from Tara Schuster, who wrote Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies, along with some other books with that F word in them. And it was such a beautiful prompt. Like, instead of talking about all the things I wanted to get done every time I came to my notebook, what if I just asked myself, how could I take on the day in the best, most loving way possible? That changes things. That changes how we go about our days. And so I didn't write as often, but I did write in ways that were very, very meaningful. Now, moving on to what I've learned. This was a banner month for learning too. As I mentioned, I launched my Grow Your Restorative reading course, and that required a lot of learning how to set things up, both on the front end and the back end, how to have emails delivered at particular times, and just the learning of all of the content I wanted to put in the course. I created the entire course as an on-demand video course with options for showing up live and interacting together. And then I have bonus videos that appear sporadically based on the learning that I'm still doing. So I recorded videos this week after spending hours learning about things like aromatherapy and reading, or yoga and reading, or even, let's see, I said aromatherapy. What was the other one? Sound therapy, like all the different kinds of colored noises and ASMR rooms and soundscapes. I've just had a blast diving into that and then sharing my learning. Honestly, I felt a little bit like Gretchen Rubin. I have admired this woman for so long because she takes a project she wants to bring to life in her life and then does it and writes about it and shares it with others. And I felt like that's what I was doing this month in the best possible way. I was reading more. I was doing what I call restorative reading sessions. I was finding books that were perfect for me. I was investigating aromatherapy and making my own essential oils. I was diving into sound therapy and attempting to put different ASMR rooms. I even took a yoga course at Kripalu for eyes, yoga for natural eye care. I just really dove in to the topic that I love so that I could put it in the course. And I got to tell you, that's a really great way to live your days. Gretchen Rubin is definitely on to something. So I learned about all of those things. I put them in the course and spent some time figuring out the best design for that as well. I geek out on instructional design. What is the best way to learn something? What should I do first, second, and third? How do I interact with people? I love all of that. It's the educator in me. And so all month long, I was just knee deep in that kind of passion project work, and it was wonderful. Now, the other unrelated thing that I've learned comes from my virtual education friend, Angela Stockman. If you don't know Angela and you're an educator, go online, go to angelastockman.com, find and follow her in all of the places. She is doing beautiful, beautiful work. But what I learned from her this month wasn't necessarily about education that blew my mind. It was about how she uses Chat GPT, I have to get that out, to help with meal planning. She has a very strict diet that she has to follow, and it can be hard to come up with meals that fit the macros and fit her taste buds. And she shared how she uses Chat GPT to do it. And I thought, wait a minute, what? I have used Chat GPT for meal ideas, but I've never gotten specific. I can't speak today, but I did this month. And I got to tell you, Chat GPT came to the rescue. You can put in, make me a weekly meal plan that is gluten-free, dairy-free, FODMAP friendly, but does not have fish or red meat. And bam. And then you can look at it and say, keep this meal plan, but give me 5 more servings of fruit. Bam. It was amazing. Talk about easy meal planning. And then all you have to do is say, print me a grocery list for this meal plan you just made, and it will literally give you the list to take to the store. I admit I spent some time on here. The next step will be actually bringing that meal plan to life and planning and preparing and prepping and cooking. But I was just so blown away that Chat GPT could do that kind of meal planning at that level. So I dare you to try that. I dare you to open up Chat GPT and just use it to play around what you might have for dinner this week and put in all of those crazy restrictions that you might have or you might want and just see what you come up with. It is a lot of fun. Okay, I've talked about what I've read, what I've written, what I've learned, and now it is time for what did I love in the month of February? Well, I loved that I spent a lot of time reading. I am one of those people who says, I don't have a lot of time. I run out of time. I'm really good at getting in the reading I want to, but I was shocked at how I was able to pretty much double the amount of reading that I've done and still not sacrifice my work or my home. I mean, maybe the dishes didn't get done quite as quickly, but I wanted to make time and I did. And I love that I had to do that for the podcast. And now I realize that I can do this whenever I want. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about is how can I make the time I want to have without a deadline looming, like a podcast episode, and make it work for other aspects of my life too. The other thing that I've loved is what Kripalu's Yoga for Eyes calls a vision walk. I've got a whole module that will be live this week inside my Grow a Restorative Reading course that talks about yoga for your eyes. But there were 2 things from the course that I want to share here. One is a vision walk, and the other one is palming for your eyes. So a vision walk is basically you going outside as often as you can with no other distractions just for the sake of looking around. I've learned that your eyes are actually an extension of your brain. They're actually brain tissue. And so we need to treat it as such. And so going outside, being in nature, getting that oxygen is so good for our eyes. But in the vision walk, you aren't supposed to fixate or look very hard. You're supposed to walk and look around often, but just skim and scan and brush and let your eyes decompress a little bit. You get the benefits of nature, the benefits of oxygen, your eyes rest a little bit, and that relaxation can go a long way in preserving eye health. The other thing that I really love is called palming. So in palming, you first take your hands and you rub them together. You can probably hear me doing, right? You get a little friction, a little bit of heat on the inside of your hands. And once they're warmed up, you take your hands and you put the palms of your hands on each of your eyes and then cross your fingers over each other. So it's almost like your hands are in a triangle and the palms are covering up your eyes. And you keep it there for at least 60 seconds. Now, when you first do that, your eyes are all over the place. There's like shooting colors, your eyes are bouncing around in their eye sockets. And this technique tells your eyes it's okay to rest. And it usually takes about a minute for our eyes to calm down, but that lets the stress off of our eyes. So if you are on the computer a lot, like I am, palming a couple of times a day and just getting out of your space a bit when you do it can go a long way to preserving your eyes. I am determined not to boost my reading prescription anymore. And I think these techniques will really help me. Now, one other fun thing is my son did a fun promposal. And so we ended up making 74 cupcakes together, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we had a naughty doodle rub his face in about 18 of them. So, there's that. But that was a fun thing that I love. I always love baking and doing stuff with the kids. And the other thing I love that I'm going to just tease for a minute because I'm going to have a whole episode on it is my 1-month calendar. It's not what you think. It is a 1-month calendar planned completely in advance of the month with quotes, with inspiring sayings and activities, and required tasks to make the month better. It is based on the book that I've read and talked about earlier, Your Perfect Year by Charlotte Lucas. And I can't wait to share what that project has done and the direction I think it could go in. A whole episode is coming up on that where I'll tell you what I tried and experimented with and invite you to try the same thing as we move into a new month. So there you have it. February taught me that I can find even more time to read and write than I think, and that spending a lot of time in your passion projects just makes life feel better. So I hope this was a fun way for you to think about the month of February and what you have read, written, learned, and loved as well. And I would love to hear about it. You can find me online in the show notes. Go to alitlife.com, click on this episode and leave your comment there. You can find me at social media and send me a DM at AfinitoLit, or you can press the audio button inside your podcast platform and send me a quick audio message on what your literate love looked like for February. So that's it for me. If you'd like to join me for more literate love and all things get literate, remember I have the Patreon community. Every month we choose a new one-word theme. We read and write around that theme. We have live events, fun episodes, First Chapter Fridays, all the things. And if you'd like more information on my Grow a Restorative Reading Practice course, you can find me in all those same places, and I'll send you a link so that you can learn more. Thanks so much for listening to this bonus episode, and I'll see you inside the next episode of the Get Literate podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. Plus, if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, bibliotherapy book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much, much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.